Welcome to Picture Book Chat, where we feature a handful of new picture books each month and discuss what makes them great. Whether you're a parent, caregiver, or teacher, you're bound to find some wonderful reading suggestions from librarians Mary Ellen Bracks and Sheri Boggs.
Hello, welcome to Picture Book Chat. I'm Mary Ellen Bracks, Public Services Manager for Youth Services here at the Spokane County Library District. And with me today is my friend and colleague, Sheri.
Hello, I'm Sheri Boggs. I'm the Youth Collection Development Librarian here at SCLD.
Great. Well, we have some fun books for you today, and Sheri's going to start us off with one.
All right, so this one starts with a question. Can you do this? And this is all sorts of great activities. So the subtitle is an imagination playbook. It's a board book, and it begins with your body can do anything. Turn the page and see. Can you touch your toes? I like this helpful arrow right here. Can you hop like a bunny? Pretty standard stuff. Can you spin in a circle? Can you make a funny face? These are things that preschoolers love to do anyway.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Can you run over there? What are you doing over there? Run back. I can just picture in a story time, like a bunch of kids.
Yeah, running
side. Yeah. And then I love, it starts to become more and more imaginative. Can you reach up, up, up as high as the sky? Keep reaching into outer space. How high can you kick your legs? Let's see it. So really fun. Can you take 3 teeny tiny steps? I just imagining kids enjoying this book is part of why I love it. But then I also love how cleverly they are introducing motor skills and encouraging kids to think about how to do these things.
Right.
There's contrast between on this page you're doing tiny little steps, and then on this page you're doing gigantic steps, kind of using different muscles, and that mental component I think is really fun.
Good vocabulary too.
Oh yeah, totally. Gigantic, that's a great one. I love this one. Can you spin around like a ceiling fan? Uh-oh, the fan broke off the ceiling. Now spin around like a tornado. I think, invisible toothbrush, you get to use some imagination. And then I love at the end of the book, it's like, okay, let's settle down. It's kind of like at the end of yoga when you do, what is it, corpse pose?
Yeah.
Can you roll around on the ground for 5 seconds? Okay, now lie on your back and be very still. It's just wonderful. What did you think about this one, Mary Ellen?
I love this. I think this would be great for anybody who's working with preschoolers and needs a transition book. So if you've got the kids and they're a little hyped up, you want to get some energy out, but get that extra energy focused on specific things, I think this would be great. Plus it has that built-in, okay, let's come back down, let's be calm, and then you can go on to your next thing. I love the bright colors in the book, too. I just think the whole color story behind it is great. And this is something that, you can get, it's great for setting that example of following instructions, too, following directions.
That's important.
So that you can work on that, too. I really liked it. Megan Roy did a great job on that. I can't wait I know we're putting it into one of our book bags. So I'm excited to see people using it in story time too.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's definitely a good story time book, a good book for a classroom. You can do a lot with it. And even if you just wanted to do a couple of pages and then skip to the end, even if you had a short amount of time, get them to calm down.
Fast forward to
fast forward
the sit down part.
So I was very pleased with that book. I think it makes a great storytime book. It makes a great book to do at home. A great book to do in a preschool classroom.
Would you try it with toddlers, or do you think they're too young for a lot of those?
Try it with some
older toddlers, yeah.
Because some of the things are a little bit harder to do for them.
Yeah.
But I would use it in a family story time, and we have toddlers in there too. So they're going to see, the older kids doing them. That'll be a great example for them. And so, yeah, as we know, any toddlers that have older siblings are always trying to do what the older siblings do. So some of them could probably do that with particular ease, too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, great one.
So that's Can You Do This? An Imagination Playbook by Megan Roy. Oh, that's my note. And there's the barcode to scan if you'd like to place a hold on it.
Great.
All right,
Thank
what have we
you.
got next?
This book is so beautiful. It is called Counting Winter, and by Nancy White Carlstrom, and she did the Jessie Bear books.
That's where I know her name from.
Right.
Okay.
And illustrated by Claudia McGehee. And the illustrations in here are phenomenal. I just thought they were beautiful. But it's a great book for counting and math. Love the end papers here. So you could start this off in a story time or in a classroom. Say, what animals do you think we'll see? And, what are some of these animals? And then you go into counting winter. So it starts off in a winter scene, somebody on a sled with sled dogs ahead. And then it starts off with one red fox and two ravens. There's some wonderful vocabulary in here too. So 2 ravens croak and gurgle, cutting the sounds out of 40 below, raucously talking winter. And I mean, just how this pops off the page is just amazing. And then 3 snowshoe hares hop on big paws, silently tracking winter. And it goes on just adding animals up in through here, animals you might see in the forests or the woods of, the great northern areas. And so you get some good perspective, too. I like this with the perspective here with the golden eagles, voles. I mean, there's some cute, great little, great animals in here. And you can talk about these animals. And so it goes through and it goes up to, I want to say it goes up to 12. It ends up with 12 excited children slip and slide on melting ice, happily meeting spring. So you go from the deep of winter into spring. So it'd be a nice transition book. And you could talk about, well, what are we going to see in spring? I love at the back, they've got a great scene with all the animals that they talked about. But then they also have some animal profiles. So it will tell you a little bit about the animals, which, for kids who love animals, this would be a great book. And who love the outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
They will love that. And then at the end, there's an author's note and an illustrator's note. So the author actually started out in Seattle, Washington, but then moved to Fairbanks, Alaska. So that's where she was drawing on her information from. And then they talk about the illustrations here. So she's using scratchboard and watercolor. So its scratchboard is made up of a thin layer of special white clay covered with black ink. So that's how they get those print-like illustrations. So, this, I could see using this in an art classroom too.
Yeah.
Even for high schoolers and art, picture books sometimes are a great way to talk about art with kids. So, because there's so many different formats and forms and mediums, I guess is the correct word to say, mediums.
Yeah.
And, and so, I just thought this was a gorgeous book. I think this would make a great gift. For someone too. So yeah, I was a big fan of this one. What about you, Sheri?
Oh, I love it. And for all the same reasons, I love the art. Another woman in my office and I were looking at it yesterday, and she discovered that the illustrator has an Etsy shop where you can buy prints and calendars and greeting cards, which we were all really excited about. Because, we were thinking it was woodcuts until we looked in the back and saw that it was scratchboard. And I agree,
same thing.
All ages, there's something so fascinating about scratchboard and the removal of the layer rather than laying something, like making a mark. It's kind of like removing to make the marks.
Right.
So that's a fascinating activity for kids.
Yeah.
But I love the vocabulary in it. There were some, I think midden I was unfamiliar with. I had to look that one up on the page about the squirrels.
Yes.
4 red squirrels feast at their midden full of cones, hungrily cracking winter. So that was wonderful.
Yeah.
And I agree about the perspective and the strong black lines. Like, I feel like this is a book, like in Storytime, you could see it
Yes.
from relatively far back.
Yes.
With that under the camera. And then just talking about winter animals, that's been like a Storytime theme sometimes that I've done.
Definitely.
Back when I did story times. And I think kids are fascinated by animals in the winter, and you can talk about, how they survive. Like I was reading in the back, the muskox have 2 layers of fur. Excuse me. And so I think that can be fun for kids to talk about adaptations and characteristics that help these animals survive in really harsh contexts.
Yeah, so it would be a good one for a kindergarten, first grade classroom, even if you're talking about animals and their habitats and how they survive. So yes, and we don't get to see too many animals in the snow. So unless you're an avid hiker and sportsman out in the winter in the snow. So yes, so this affords, a great opportunity. It's a window into another land, which I really like. So yeah, and the sled dogs, that was so much fun to see.
Yeah, so much action in this book too, which I think when we think about animals in winter, we think of hibernation. And I love that we see this picture of animals that are still very active through the whole season.
Yes. So yeah, I thought it was great and just so visually pleasing, and just a great one to take a look at.
Yeah.
Kids will love it because it's just about the right length for a preschooler. You're counting up to 12. It's not too much text, but the text is rich in vocabulary. So I think it's a great mix for that age group. So yeah.
Good one.
Great. Another good pick. And then on the back, here's the barcode so you can link to our catalog and put it on hold.
Great. Well, the next book we're going to do is Whale Song. And I am completely in love with this book. A little personal story about it. It's based on a true story, and I've been fascinated by killer whales pretty much my whole life. And so I've been to the aquarium that they talk about in here. I think it's now closed. And one of the men that they talk about in this book runs Orca Lab, which is based on it's in the little strait around Vancouver Island, and you can actually watch footage of orcas. They have cameras underwater and above water. And during the summer months when the pods that come in there are there, like you can watch them in the water. So the man in this book Dr. Paul Spong has done amazing work with killer whales. And I love that there's now a children's book about it. So,
and I didn't make the connection because I also follow that.
Oh, do you? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I love, I've always wanted to go and see them. And, when we went to Orcas Island, I was always on the lookout. Every time we were on the ferry.
Yeah. Get the binoculars.
Which we did not, but I understand San Juan Island is the island to go to. So, but I mean, I love this book. This would have been a book as I was a child who loved animals and sea life that I definitely would have gone towards and gravitated towards.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love the pairing in this book. It's about 2 men named Paul. One is a musician. The other is Dr. Paul Spong. 2 little kids who are the sons of the musician, and then 2 orca whales. And so you meet them at Sealand of the Pacific. But it's a story that talks about whales in captivity. And the whales that they're talking about are Haida and Chimo. And you see kind of this stuff going on the skin of this whale, and you kind of learn like things happen when whales are in captivity. Like sometimes their dorsal fins tip over, or sometimes they'll get skin conditions. Really strong illustrations that convey that in a really approachable way. It's sad, but it's not overly sad, like in a way that I think is really going to upset children.
Right.
This is also a book I think is appropriate for not preschoolers, K through 3.
Yeah,
it
yeah.
seems like it's for older kids.
Yes, definitely.
But this guy comes by and he thinks maybe the orcas might be interested in music. And so like he brings his guitar or flute, I can't remember, his flute.
Yeah.
So here he is playing for the orcas and they respond to it.
Yeah.
They love the sounds. They are making calls back. And they just have this wonderful experience where the whales are responding to the humans through the power of sound and music. So I love this story. It's really just kind of talking about whales in captivity. One of them unfortunately passes away, which they do. It's not a great environment for them. Here you see him with his little dorsal fin curved over.
Right.
But what this story does is it talks about how this friendship between the men and the whales raises awareness about, I mean, this is where they first started talking about whales in captivity and that it's not the best life for them.
Right.
And this kind of happened, a lot of whales were captured in the 60s and 70s, right in Puget Sound. And finally we're getting to the point where we're realizing like this, you shouldn't be keeping them in marine parks. They're highly intelligent creatures. And then there's lots of facts in the back about how orcas find food. There's information about Orca Lab. It gives you the link to watch orcas in the wild. And they have highlight reels. So even if they're gone right now, like you can watch the highlight reels. They're amazing. Right. So I've gone on long enough about whale song. What did you think, Mary Ellen?
I loved it. I mean, I do think, it's for that early elementary age that they would really like it. It would be good to use in a unit on sea life, and especially since it focuses in on the Pacific Northwest too. I mean, this is someplace where all of us can think about, we could take a trip to Vancouver Island, and which is on my wish list to do. I think it's something that you could talk about. Some of the kids may have already been there and, have you say, oh yeah, I've been there, or I've seen that. And, I really liked it. I like that they put, and we've got this in our nonfiction collection, and I do like that it's a great way to introduce nonfiction to kids. Also. So, and then they can talk about the information that they learn in here. It might spur them on to do some more research on orcas. And there's been a lot in the news lately about orcas too. So, I mean, this could spur on, it might be a fun family project to find out more about orcas. So I could see that. It might be something a homeschooling family might want to use as part of their science unit. I think there's a lot in here that would appeal to a lot of people. I was a big fan of that one too. And I really liked all the illustrations. And then I saw that was it this one? He's also the creator of the new PBS Kids series, Carl the Collector.
Okay.
So you can see some of his work visually online too. So,
and we have a lot of books by him. He's a great illustrator.
Yes. So, big
Very
fan.
cool.
Another great one. And then, on the back here is the barcode for you to be able to link directly to our catalog. Put it on hold.
Great. What's next, Mary Ellen?
Oh, this is a fun one for every child that loves dinosaurs. This is definitely going to be a winner. So this is the Dinosaur Next Door. And so this is, the illustrations in here are wonderful too. Of course, I saw this and I was like, I like cake. But basically it's about, little girl talks about her neighbor, Mr. Wilson. And she goes, well, everyone thought Mr. Wilson was normal. Liz knew that Mr. Wilson was, in fact, a dinosaur. And this little girl's a dinosaur expert, so I can see that appealing to a lot of kids who are really into dinosaurs. But he is a wonderful baker. But she's a little concerned about him being a dinosaur, and she thought someone should know that she realized we have this dinosaur. And talks about just his bakery and how he loves to bake. But then she decides to follow him because she's very intrigued by this. And then she realizes total fantasy, right? He takes off his disguise and suddenly he turns around and says, "Hello, Liz."
So cute.
She's like, "Oh." But he didn't seem upset. And then they go through into this world with all the dinosaurs. So, of course, what happens, somebody has followed them. And, she has a wonderful time with all the dinosaurs. But then the museum has followed her where she went to go talk to them, and they take Mr. Wilson away. And she's very upset. So she's trying to figure out how to free him. And so they, she's so worried about him, but then she kind of makes him disappear. But then they realize that everybody was like, "Wait a minute, that's Mr. Wilson." We miss having our cakes. And soon everyone was shouting, "Let him go, let him go." But they talk about, "That doesn't matter to us. He's one of the finest bakers that has ever lived, and he has a heart of gold. Mr. Wilson could be an alien from outer space for all we care." And then the next day, he was back at the bakery. So it's a fun story. And he's back where he belongs, baking his cakes. Very imaginative.
Yeah.
And I thought that, another great one for big dinosaur enthusiasts who love to have a dinosaur. I thought it was a fun story. It's a little longer.
Mm-hmm.
But, older preschoolers, early elementary, I think would really get a big kick out of this book. What did you think?
I loved the quality of light in all the illustrations. It's just a luminous picture book.
Yes. Yes, like this one especially.
So gorgeous. Yeah.
Through.
And just like the light in the bakery shop windows. I loved the imagination of it. I love when she goes into that clearing and sees all the dinosaurs there. And the main character, the dinosaur himself is just so engaging. And I think that the illustrator did a lot of cool stuff, like with his physicality. Like you often see him with his neck bent over, like he doesn't completely fit in the human world. And I thought it was interesting. The only real adult in the story is kind of nefarious. Like I thought it was interesting that you have this untrustworthy sort of adult character that is kind of like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Dinosaurs went extinct however many million years ago." But then it's like, "Oh, well, if my museum can make a profit, let's catch this guy." Yeah. So I thought that was just an interesting thing in the story that you don't really see that much. So I thought,
and it turns out that she was right. Like she tries to tell an adult, and they don't believe her. But then, they found out, oh, she's right. She's not making this up.
And I can take credit. So it was very interesting. I think this book works on a couple different levels that way. Like you, I loved the end papers. I love the whimsy of it that he's got a job and he's a baker. I love this sort of Parisian neighborhood that they're in. It's just beautiful. I loved it too. And I thought it was a great story that like older preschool, maybe early elementary would really love this.
Yes, definitely. So it's always great when they come out with a new dinosaur book just before it's time to give gifts.
Yes.
So this was The Dinosaur Next Door by David Litchfield. And then here's the barcode on the back. So, I'm sure it will be a big hit for any little in your life who loves dinosaurs. So, Well, thank you for a great set of books.
Oh, you're welcome, Mary Ellen. Always a pleasure talking about them.
Yes. So we hope you all have a great day, and we will see you next time on Picture Book Chat. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching Picture Book Chat. If you enjoyed this discussion, please give it a like and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. We'll be back next month, and until then, happy reading with the children in your life.